Hello and welcome to the lecture series on applied thermodynamics. We were studying vapor power cycles. In today's lecture we are going to take up one numerical problem based on simple steam power plant or simple Rankine cycle. In fact, we are going to take up, followed by we are going to look at different process parameters which affect thermal efficiency of the steam power plant. And then towards the end we will discuss one of the particular method for improving the thermal efficiency of power plant, that is reheat method. Before we proceed further, I would like to stress upon one of the problem which I have taken up in the previous class. In the previous class we were solving one problem to find the phase and to locate the system existence. Given that the working fluid is water and it is existing at a temperature of 120 degrees Celsius with a specific volume of 0.5 meter cube per kg. Now since temperature is given to us, pressure is not given to us, therefore one has to go ahead with temperature entry method. In case of temperature entry method, we know that temperature curve has to be fixed, therefore the plot will be PV plot. So we have a PV plot here and we have a saturation dome, so therefore let us now fix the constant temperature curve. So we have a constant temperature curve here. Along this curve the temperature is 120 degrees Celsius. Now we are going to extend the line along the saturation point towards the y-axis and cut the y-axis, and that forms saturation pressure to us. Further, here we don't have pressure, but instead of that we are given specific volume. Therefore one can compare the volumes related to the saturation dome for this water for this particular curve of 120 degrees Celsius. Therefore we have specific volume at saturated liquid point, which is denoted as VF, and the specific volume at dry saturated condition, which is denoted by VG. Now let us look at, for a temperature of 120 degrees Celsius, what is the value of VF and VG, so that we can find out whether the given specific volume is it inside the dome or is it outside the dome. So that will help us to figure out the phase of the system. Now let us take up steam table here. So here we have table number A2, and the given problem we have 120 degrees Celsius and specific volume is 0.5 meter cube per kg. Therefore since we are following temperature entry method, the first entry what we can see is the temperature, therefore it's a temperature basis the table is. Therefore we are now looking at 120 degrees Celsius. So among this column we have 120 degrees Celsius here. For this 120 degrees Celsius the saturation pressure is 1.9854 bar, and now when we look at VF and VG value, so here we have VF value and VG value, but the given specific volume is 0.5. so from these two values, that is VF and VG, we understand that when we compare with the given specific volume, we see that the given specific volume is lying inside VG and the given specific volume is greater than VF. That means it is inside the dome, So therefore let us now go back to the problem. So now we know that 0.5 meter cube per kg is inside the dome, and we know that if the system is lying inside the dome, then we call this as two-phase mixture region, because some part is vapor and some part is having fluid. Therefore now at 120 degrees Celsius we have referred to table number A2 and page number 15, and we also saw that the saturation pressure is 1.98 bar, and the corresponding VF value and VG value we could able to note that these values from the table as seen. Therefore this is two-phase mixture region, and we also know that if the system is lying inside the dome, then there will be some dryness fraction associated with the system. Therefore one has to find out the dryness fraction. Since the specific volume is given to us, we can use the relation which is applicable inside the dome, that is V is equal to Vf plus X into Vfg. So we are going to apply that. V is equal to Vf plus X into Vfg, and given specific volume is 0.5 meter cube per kg, and Vf value we got it from the data table. Vf as shown here, plus X as it is, we don't know, this is unknown term. Then Vfg is Vg minus Vf, which will form Vfg. Vg minus Vf forms Vfg. So if Vfg value is directly not available in the table, one can subtract Vg from Vf, and that way one can find out Vfg value. So that is how this has been done. Therefore the X will be unknown, one can calculate X, and it comes to 0.56. In terms of percentage, it is 56.03 percentage. This means the dryness fraction is 56%. That means 56% of the given fluid got converted into vapor. That is the meaning of it. That means if on this saturation line, if point Vf, this denotes say a scale of 0 where X is equal to 0, and as the system proceeds, this X value will keep increasing, and as it reaches the dry saturated condition, the X value will become 100%. So here the given value what we got is 56%. That means it is somewhere just above the midpoint, somewhere here. So that is about the dryness fraction. Now one can, after knowing the dryness fraction, one can find out the enthalpy also inside the dome. Therefore we have the same equation, H is equal to Hf plus X into Hfg. So using the same relation, one can find H is equal to Hf. Now Hf value and Hfg value are directly given to us in the table. One can refer to the table as shown here. So we have here Hf value along this column, that is 503.7, and here we have Hfg value directly given to us, that is 2202.2 kilojoule per kg. But whereas when you look at the specific volumes, we don't have Vfg value. That is why we have subtracted Vg from Vf to get Vfg, but here we have direct value of Hfg value. So we note these Hf and Hfg values and substitute into the given equations. So we get now the enthalpy inside the dome at a temperature of 120 degrees Celsius. We get enthalpy as 1737 kilojoule per kg. Similarly, one can find out the entropy also. Since it is, the system is inside the dome and it is having now the dryness fraction of around 56%, we can use the relation S is equal to Sf plus X into Sfg, similar to these two. Therefore we have Sf value directly from the table, and we know X value 56% and Sfg value we take note from the data table. Therefore let us now look at this Sf value and Sfg value from the data table, and we see that here along this Sf value we have 1.5276 kilojoule per kg Kelvin, and Sfg value 5.6017 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. So these are the two values which we picked up at 120 degrees Celsius. So now let us go back and make a conclusion for this problem. So we get the entropy at 120 degrees Celsius as 4.66 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. So this is about a problem where we found the system is existing inside the dome. The past two problems what we took up earlier, one was pertaining to compressed liquid region, the other one was pertaining to superheated region, and this is the third variety where we saw the system is lying inside the dome. So that is how we solve the problem if the system is lying inside the dome. So this is about the problems where one can find out how to figure out whether the given system is whether it is in which region, and also we are now little familiar about how to refer to the data table. Now with this background we can proceed further, taking up a numerical problem. So we have a simple steam power plant, and the steam is supplied at 15 bar, and it is supplied at a dry saturated condition. The condenser pressure is 0.4 bar, and they're asking us to find out Carnot cycle efficiency and also Rankine cycle efficiency, and they're telling us neglect the pump work. So this is a very simple problem now, and the word simple here means the cycle is not having any modifications. It's a simple representation which has 4 basic components. One is the boiler, the next one is the turbine, then we have condenser, then we have pump. These are the 4 components which are arranged to form a steam power plant. So such a arrangement is called as simple steam power plant. So now let us note the given data. So in the given data the steam is supplied at 15 bar, which means the boiler pressure is given to us. The boiler pressure here we are noting as P1, which is 15 bar, and it is at a dry saturated condition, which we very well understand that on a TS diagram we have saturation dome. Half of the saturation dome is formed by saturated liquid curve, the next half is formed by saturated vapor curve. So thus any point on the saturated vapor curve is called as dry saturated, and then we have the condenser pressure is given as 0.4 bar, which we are taking as P2, and we are neglecting the pump work. Let us now proceed with this. So we have a TS plot for the given problem, and here we have a saturation dome, and we have 2 pressure curves. One pressure curve which is above, which is represented here as 4, 4-1 and so on. This represents the boiler pressure having a high pressure P1, which is 15 bar in our case. The other one is a low pressure, which is 3 to 2 and so on. So this is the condenser pressure, and this is low side, it is on a lower side, P2. Now we see that point number 1 is on a saturated vapor curve. So I told that any point on this curve is called as a dry saturated, since they have given us that the pressure of 15 bar and the steam is supplied at a dry saturated condition. Therefore point number 1 is on the curve. And the expansion process which is taking place inside the turbine is isentropic expansion process. Therefore it has to be a straight line. And we have this point where it touches the condenser pressure as point number 2. And then we have a heat rejection process 2 to 3, and 3 to 4 is a pump work, and again 4 to 1 is a boiler. Heat addition happens in the boiler. Now we have the given data here, and we know that the Carnot cycle efficiency is given to us as T1 minus T2 by T1, which is a purely Carnot cycle efficiency is purely a function of temperatures. Therefore from the TS plot we have the 2 temperature limits here. TH corresponds to the high temperature at which heat was supplied to the boiler, to the steam, and then we have T2, which corresponds to TL, low temperature at which heat was rejected from the condenser. And now one has to find out the values for TH and TL. Here it is T2 and T1. So now the only data that we have with us is a pressure is given to us P1, and the boiler pressure is given to us P, that is a 15 bar, and the condenser pressure is 0.4 bar. Therefore referring to the steam tables, table number A1 and page number 12, For a pressure of 15 bar, the corresponding temperature will be a saturation temperature, which is at 198.28 degrees Celsius. So now converting this into Kelvin, we are going to add by 273.15, then this becomes the Kelvin unit. So here we have TH or T1, one can call. Similarly, noting the condenser pressure as 0.4 bar, referring to a steam table of A1 and page number 11, for a pressure of 0.4 bar, the corresponding temperature will be 75.89 degrees Celsius. And therefore, once we convert that degree Celsius to Kelvin by adding 273.5, we are going to get the temperature in Kelvin scale unit, 349.04 Kelvin. So now we have temperature T1 and temperature T2. Therefore, one can substitute these values into the above equation and get the value of efficiency, which is now as 25.96%. Now we know that in the problem they asked two things. One is the Carnot cycle efficiency, that is the first part of the question. The second part of the question was Rankine cycle efficiency, and we know that Carnot cycle efficiency gives us maximum efficiency. Therefore, if 25.96 is the efficiency given by Carnot cycle, which obviously means that the Rankine cycle efficiency has to be less than Carnot cycle efficiency. Therefore, now let us now proceed with the problem. So here we have a simple steam power plant where we have the four components. One is a boiler, turbine, then condenser, followed by a pump. The corresponding TS plot we are looking at here, where we have 1 to 2, and this is isentropic expansion process. Let us extend this line further so that it can cut the x-axis, and we know since it is isentropic, we can write it as S1 is equal to S2. S1 is equal to S2. So please remember that in the turbine, if it is an ideal process, then this will be an isentropic process where S1 will be S2 all the time. Similarly, even from process 3 to 4 also, this is an isentropic compression process. One can extend the line, cut the x-axis and write S3 is equal to S4. Similar one can write here. So here we have the two pressure lines, and now to find out the Rankine cycle efficiency, we know that it is given with the formula net work done divided by the heat supplied. So when we look at the equation here, thermal efficiency of Rankine cycle is given as net work done by the heat supplied. Now the net work done is happening in the turbine. Therefore, the process 1 to 2 is an expansion process which is happening inside the turbine. We can see the process 1 to 2 is a turbine section. Therefore, the work is extracted from the turbine WT, and that is given as H1 minus H2. So we have H1 minus H2. Similarly, divided by, the equation is divided by heat input. Where is the heat input here? We can see the section 4 to 1. So this is where the heat Q1 is added. Therefore, we have H1 minus H4, higher enthalpy minus lower enthalpy, H1 minus H4. So now, by looking at this equation, one has to find out the enthalpy values, H1 corresponding to state point number 1, similarly H2 corresponding to state point 2, and then we have again divided by H1, which we get from the state point 1, and then we have H4, which corresponds to the exit of the pump. So at the given state points, we have to go on finding the enthalpies, plug in the enthalpy values in the given equation, and get the value of efficiency. Now let us begin our exercise in finding these enthalpies to find out the Rankine cycle efficiency. Now let us proceed with state point 1. State point 1, we know very well that it is a boiler pressure, P1 is equal to 15 bar, and it is in the dry saturation condition. Therefore, we are going to refer to a table of A1 to page number 12, and here the dry saturation means it is the corresponding will be in saturated vapor point, therefore it is a Hg value from the tables, and Hg value will become H1 value 2789.9 kilojoule per kg. Similarly, at that point the corresponding entropy will be S1, which is Sg value from the data table pertaining to 15 bar. Please note that we are not crossing and going above Hg value because they have given us the steam is supplied at dry saturated condition, therefore we are referring to saturated tables. So now we are having H1 value with us and S1 values. The reason why we are picking up S1 from the table is because we know that the turbine work is isentropic expansion, therefore S1 is equal to S2, therefore this becomes one of the basis so that one can calculate H2 value at the condenser. Now let us proceed further at state 2. At state 2 we have the condenser pressure. So condenser pressure is 0.4 bar, and we know that S1 is equal to S2 because that is isentropic expansion process. So when we compare the data at 0.4 bar from the steam table, and when we look at the entropy Sg value at 0.4 bar, we compare that with that of S1 value, and we see that at corresponding state point 2 the entropy value was found to be greater than that of S1 value. That means the given whatever we have obtained, the entropy value was within Sg value. That means it is lying inside the dome. So that is the meaning of this. S2 is greater than S1. That here S2 is Sg value, saturated, dry saturated condition. So we see that yes, since S1 is equal to S2, we see that the state point is inside the dome, therefore one has to find out the dryness fraction, and we know that inside the dome, saturation dome, the dryness fraction is related with an equation S is equal to SF plus X2 into SFG. Since we are talking about the state point 2, so we have denoted as S2 is equal to SF plus X2 into SFG. Please note that since the turbine work is isentropic, we could able to write this as S2 is equal to S1 is equal to this much. And now, so from the state point number 1, we can now replace S2 with S1. So we got 6.44.6 from the above, which is equal to, referring to a data table pertaining to 0.4 bar, we could able to make a note of SF value at 0.4 bar, which comes to 1.0261. Similarly, plus and X2 is unknown, and SFG from the data table at 0.4 bar. So here we get dryness fraction as 81.4%. So now we know the dryness fraction at state point number 2. We can find out the enthalpy. H is equal to HF plus X into HFC. So that way we can find out what is the enthalpy H2 value. Now moving to state point number 3. In state point number 3, we know that state point number 3 is on the saturated liquid point on the TS plot. Therefore VF value corresponds to H3 value here. Therefore we have H3 is equal to HF value at condenser pressure, that is 0.4 bar. At 0.4 bar we get it from the data table at 0.4 bar as 317.7 kilojoule per kg. This is about state point number 3. Similarly, when we want to work out the H4 value, there the pump work is there. So therefore we have H4 minus H3, where you are going to equate the enthalpy with reference to V into dP. Based upon our TDS relation, dH is equal to V into dP. So using that equation, one can write H4 minus H3 will become dH is equal to V into dP. So we have now H4 is equal to minus H3 will be sending on to the other side of the equation. We have Vf and into the change in the pressures. One is a boiler pressure, the other one is condenser pressure. So Vf from the data table we can make a note as shown here, and we know the boiler pressure as 15 and condenser pressure 0.4 bar, plus H3 we have noted from the above from the HF value as 317.7. From this solving we are going to arrive at 317.71 kilojoule per kg. So now we have all the enthalpy values. We have H1 and we know H2, we know H4. So now we are going to plug in all these enthalpy values into the Rankine cycle efficiency relation, and then we are going to get thermal efficiency as 23.55%. So this is about the Rankine cycle efficiency. Now when we compare Rankine cycle efficiency with the Carnot cycle efficiency in the present problem, we see that Rankine cycle efficiency is lesser compared to that of Carnot cycle efficiency. So now let us move further from here and look at different ways one can increase the thermal efficiency of Rankine cycle. So here we have different methods. Method number one is, the idea here is why exactly we are looking at improving the thermal efficiency of Rankine cycle. We know that in reality most of the power that is being supplied throughout the world is on thermal power plants, that is steam power plants, and tons of coals and fuels are used. If there is a little improvement in the thermal efficiency, that can reflect in huge savings in terms of fuel cost. So therefore different methods and means are tried out to save the thermal efficiency. So one of the method here is lowering the condenser pressure. So what we understand by here is, when you look at a TS plot, the previous problem whatever we have solved, we saw that it is the finally it is the average temperature at which heat is added to the cycle. If it increases, then it automatically reflects in improvement in the thermal efficiency. Similarly, by decreasing the average temperature at which heat is rejected from the cycle, that will help in improving the thermal efficiency. Therefore the idea here is how to increase the average temperature of heat addition, or how to decrease the heat that is rejected from the cycle. So here is the first method, lowering the condenser pressure. So we have a TS plot here, we have a TS plot, we have a saturation dome, and we have the boiler pressure here, which is a 2- to 3 boiler pressure, and then we have the condenser pressure that is from 1 to 4 and so on. Here we are seeing that first method is lowering the condenser pressure. So when we lower the condenser pressure, one has to come down and draw the plot the next pressure curve, where point number 4 becomes 4-, point number 1 becomes 1-. So with this small variation, by decreasing the condenser pressure, we can see that this much of area is being saved. That means heat rejected is saved. In other words, the work done has increased. And we also see that the heat addition has increased from 1 to 2, 2 to 2-, 2- to 1-. So for one side heat is rejected, that has reduced, the other side heat addition has increased. Therefore this will obviously reflect in improvement in the thermal efficiency of power plant, But here is a constraint that one cannot go on lowering the condenser pressure. Because this is dictated with atmospheric conditions. If it is well before the atmospheric conditions, then there can be a vacuum that can set up, and there may be a bubble formation and so on. The other problem is, we can see that point number 4 is almost near the dry saturated point, but whereas because of decrease in the condenser pressure, we saw that 4- has come into the saturation dome. That means dryness fraction is taking values now here. It is decreasing, value is decreasing. And for practical purposes, usually it is not recommended for a dryness fraction to fall less than 88% or 85%. So that will have a problem in the turbine. Turbine blades are designed to handle steam but not the moisture, so there may be a corrosion problem that can set up to the turbine blades. That is another issue when we decrease the pressure beyond some recommended value. So this is about the lowering the condenser pressure and the effect of this on the cycle efficiency. Now let us move ahead with the next method, that is superheating the steam to high temperature. So I told you that increasing the average heat of heat addition will increase the thermal efficiency of the cycle. So the one way of increasing the average temperature of heat addition is by superheating the steam. Let us now look at TS plot. In the TS plot we have a saturation dome and we have a boiler pressure and we have a condenser pressure here, and now we are able to see here the effect of superheating. Earlier the initial point was 3. Now because of superheating we are now taking the point 3 to the next higher level, which is at point 3 dash. Now if you draw one horizontal line, cut the y-axis, therefore point 3 dash is much higher compared to that of 3. So because of this, when the expansion happens, we can see that this much of area got added newly. That means the area within the curve has increased. So heat addition to the cycle has increased, therefore this will obviously reflect in improvement in the net work done, and it will increase the efficiency of the cycle. And also there is another benefit here. Because of the superheating process, we saw that the quality also is improving. Earlier it was 4, from 3 to when there is an expansion from point number 3, which was having some dryness fraction X at 0.4. Now because of superheating, now the dryness fraction has increased. That means more and more vapor, it is coming towards the dry saturated curve. So this is a good news in that way. This can help in better performance of the cycle. So this is about the superheating the steam to high temperature. But one cannot keep on increasing this temperature to a very great level. The maximum temperature the one can go is around 620 degrees Celsius. This is mainly because of metallurgical consideration. Otherwise the metals may not withstand this temperature and they may start melting. And the corresponding boiler pressure also around 30 megapascal. Now moving further with the third method. So far we have seen two methods. One was reducing the condenser pressure, the other one was superheating the steam. Now third process, we have increasing the boiler pressure. Let us look at TS plot. In the TS plot we have the pressure curve from 2 to 3. This curve, this is a boiler pressure, at which you have maximum temperature, which is around 620 degrees Celsius, which I have shown in the previous slide. Now assuming that we are operating the plant at a maximum temperature of 620 degrees Celsius, now by increasing the pressure in the boiler, so we have the next higher pressure curve here, which is 2 dash to 3 dash, operating at the same maximum temperature. So what we are seeing with this small variation, we saw that this much of area got added into the curve. However, we also could see that the cycle is shifting from right to the left. So this much area we are able to lose. So there is a decrease in the work done. At the same time there is an increase in the work done because of the addition of this new area. At any point of time we can see that the new area which has been added because of the rise in the boiler pressure is much higher compared to the decrease in the area. So therefore we see that the increasing the boiler pressure is able to help us with increasing the cycle efficiency. But however, the point to consider here is the process point 4 got shifted to 4 dash. That means here the quality is decreasing, which is not a good observation. So this is one of the disadvantage associated with increasing the boiler pressure, as the curve is shifting towards the left side. However, to overcome this bottleneck situation, people are proposing one more method called as a reheat method. In that case, there will not be full expansion in the turbine. Rather, they are going to partially expand in one turbine. Again, they are going to supply heat, take it to the next level, and then they are going to expand the rest of the steam completely in the next turbine, so that one can have the outlet of the turbine somewhere closer to the saturation dome, saturated vapor line. So that way one can overcome this limitation in the dryness fraction. So friends, with this we are now looking at a reheat process. So in the reheat process, we are having two turbines. One turbine is called as a first stage, the second turbine is called as a second stage. In the first stage turbine, it's a high pressure turbine. We are going to expand the steam, and once the steam is expanded, work is extracted from the turbine, and that steam, after it loses enthalpy, will be again reheated in the boiler, and it will be again supplied to the next turbine, that is a low pressure turbine. So this is called a reheat pressure. At that pressure, we are going to supply to the next turbine, low pressure turbine or second stage turbine. At this point, again full expansion of the steam will take place, and the steam is going to go through condensation process. Then we have a pump, condensate will be pumped to the boiler and back to the again turbine. So here we have a small modification where we are going to expand the steam partially in one turbine, then we are going to reheat the steam, again supplied to the next turbine. So we are having heat addition taking place in two times. One is regular primary heat addition in the boiler, the other heat addition is happening in the reheat process. Similarly, work also, we are now having work done by turbine 1 plus work done by turbine 2 will give us the total work done. So now let us look at the TS plot. Here we have a TS plot. Here we have a boiler pressure, and then we have a condenser pressure. Here we see that the steam is superheated to point 1 dash, and then in the first stage turbine, which is called as a high pressure turbine, where partially the steam is expanded, and then again it is routed back to the heater. Therefore again there is a rise in the temperature, and then it will be again completely expanded in the stage 2 turbine from 2 dash to 3 dash. So that is what we are seeing, 2 dash to 3 dash. There is a complete expansion here, 2 dash to 3 dash, and from 3 dash to 4 dash we have heat rejection process, and from 4 to 4 dash we have a pump work, 4 to 4 dash, and then we have 4 dash to 1 dash, 4 dash to 1 dash. Again this is a heat addition in the boiler, So we see that the work is done in the turbine two times. One is from 1 dash to 2, that is 1 dash to 2 in the first turbine, and then the second one is from 2 dash to 3 dash, 2 dash to 3 dash, passing through the second turbine. So we have total work done by the turbine is work done by the turbine 1 plus work done by the turbine 2. Similarly, the heat addition is happening two times. One is during the regular boiler, that is called as a primary heat supplied, that is from 1 dash to 4 dash. The other one is from 2 dash to 2. So this is the next the volume where we can see area where the heat is added. So we see the two components of heat. So we have totally given as primary heat in the boiler plus primary heat in the reheat purpose. This is a boiler where primary heat is supplied during the regular process of working, and during the expansion again it is reheated. So we have the reheat extra, which is representing 2 dash to 2. Similarly, for work component also, total work is work done in the turbine 1, which is representing from 1 dash to 2. Similarly, we have work done by turbine 2, which is 2 dash to 3. So this is about the overall arrangement of the reheat cycle. Now let us look at the efficiency relation. We have thermal efficiency as net work done by heat supplied. So we are now looking at what will be the work done term here, that is H1 dash minus H2 plus H2 dash minus H3. So this becomes the work done by the turbine, total work done by the turbine, divided by the heat supply. Heat supplied will be H1 dash minus H4 dash plus H2 dash minus H2. So here we have the numerator, which is a work term, and the denominator is a heat term. So we have the two work components here, H1 dash minus H2, H1 dash minus H2, plus we have the second expansion happening in second turbine, H2 dash minus H3, H2 dash minus H3, divided by the heat supplied, H1 minus H4 dash, H1 minus H4 dash, plus H2 dash minus H2, H2 dash minus H2. So this forms the new correlation for the thermal efficiency. Therefore this is not called as simple Rankine cycle. So now this is a modified form, because we have introduced a reheat process here, reheat concept here. So therefore the equation has taken a new shape here. So with this we are now coming to the end of this today's lecture. In the next class we will take up one problem to get familiar with this reheat concept. Thank you for your attention.